In a meta defined by powerful yellow cards carrying decks to victory, rises a new contender. Is it meta-defining or meta-breaking? I'll let you decide. Hi, I'm the King of TopDecks, and I'll be going over a brand new leader just released in EB03. We're going to be looking at and talking about Nefeltari Vivi. So Vivi is a deck that rewards proper sequencing, punishes hesitation from our opponents, and turns small advantages into game-ending pressure through explosive turns. But in case you're wondering how, well, let's go ahead and break it down. But before we do that, please do me a favor, like and subscribe, and comment on the video. I am just getting my channel off the ground, and your support would truly mean a lot to me. Without further ado, let's get on into it. So first things first, we should probably start by talking about Vivi. What exactly does Vivi do? So Vivi is a 5k leader that has a once per turn. If a character with a base cost of 4 or more would be KO'd, you may trash one card from your hand instead. And then it has an activate main. You may rest this leader, give up to one of your opponent's characters minus 2k during this turn, then up to one of your characters without a when attacking effect gains rush during this turn. As you can see, this is kind of strong on a leader ability. You're effectively giving any single card in the game rush, as long as it doesn't have when attacking. And spoiler alert, there's a lot of really good non-when attacking cards in the One Piece game, especially in the red and blue colors. And we're going to start going over a little bit of that as we start getting in through the rest of the deck profile. Vivi's effect is incredibly powerful, and the good thing about her is that despite her having to rest herself in order to do the effect, you can actually get away with, there's a couple of cards in here that are actually going to minus the leader's power, and you're actually going to realize that that really doesn't affect us very much because we aren't really attacking with Vivi very often. And that's actually what separates us from the original blue-red Vivi, because that original Vivi couldn't attack other people on that turn. So that is one nice distinction that we kind of get, and we can kind of start talking a little bit more about what else we're going to be seeing in the deck that is going to help support the rest of our game plan. So first things first, we got to start off with all of our generic one-cost searchers. We've got 4 copies of the Nefeltari Vivi from OP13. This is a 1-cost 2k, 1k counter. With on play, look at the top 4 cards of your deck, reveal 1 Alabasta or Straw Hat Crew type with a cost of 2 or more, and add it to your hand, then place the rest at the bottom of your deck in any order. Vivi is going to be incredibly helpful for us because you're going to see that we don't really have a whole lot of searchers in this deck. This is really our main searcher, but we have plenty of draw in the deck. So we will be able to get to most of the stuff that we need, but this kind of helps us refine that starting hand to be exactly what we need. And so 4 copies of this is an absolute must. Next up, I got my own little special bit of tech in here, got my own little spice. I've been kind of searching the webs. I was already pre-building this leader before EB03 came out, I think like maybe about a month or 2 in advance, when I first saw the leader, because I thought the leader's effect was insane. And one thing I saw from a lot of different Japanese lists that I was looking at, and even people talking about the leader, not a lot of people were actually considering running Sanji, which is surprising to me, because in case you didn't know, Sanji's a 3-cost 3k counter, 1k counter 3k, that says on your turn, this character gets plus 3000 power. On KO, you draw a card. It's also, and it's also quite importantly, a Straw Hat Crew type. You can search this off of your Vivi, and then you can slam this down the very next turn, use your Vivi's leader effect, swing 6k immediately at them on turn 2. This is, I cannot emphasize how strong that is. And in most cases, people will probably swing into it the next turn, getting rid of it because you're going to be 3k on your opponent's turn. But guess what? We're going to be drawing one more sweet card, which is going to get us into some of our higher end, which is also, spoiler alert, incredibly fucking good. This deck is really aggressive. It's this deck that I've cooked up here is a little bit more on the tempo-oriented side because I do tend to like tempo-oriented decks, and if you've seen my other videos, you know that Koala is one of my favorite decks. And in that deck, it really rewards a lot of your sequencing and tempo that you can get. And I wanted my Vivi to kind of do effectively the same thing for me here. So that's why I wanted to get the Sanjis here, because this does help out our early game a little bit. It gives us some pretty good pressure that we can start swinging very early on, and I do like it quite a lot. And of course, it wouldn't be a blue deck without having at least one copy of Pudding, but in our case, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Pudding. For those who, if you're a very veteran one-place player, you're very well aware of what this card does, but for those uninitiated, Pudding is a 4-cost 4k counter, 1k counter, 4k power. That says on play, your opponent shuffles their entire hand back into their deck and draws 5 new cards. This is incredibly good, especially against the mirror match, because Vivi draws a ton of cards throughout the game. It's also good against stuff like Ace, Mihawk, and Boa. There's just so many decks in the format that want to be drawing tons of cards. People have been asking for this card to be banned, and honestly, if you can't play around the Pudding, you're just a bad player. I hate to break it to you. And there's another cat jump scare. But the main thing about Pudding is that it's not too hard to play around. You just really have to have effectively a five card hand. But also, if you have done lots of searching, just expect that you are likely going to get punished if you are playing against another blue player. It is something that you do constantly have to play around, but in the late game, it's usually not something you really have to worry about. But I have it in here. Pudding is necessary. It's very helpful for us regaining a little bit of that pressure and really locking out our opponents when we need them. Up next, this is our only, and I mean only, card in the deck that has a when attacking. But the when attacking effect is quite good and it helps us out a lot. Talking about 4-cost Cavendish. This is a 4-cost 6k character that has when attacking, once per turn, you may draw 2 cards and trash 1 card from your hand. This just helps us filter out our hand a little bit more, getting us a little bit more of that tempo in our favor, because you can never go wrong with drawing some extra cards. And you're going to see that there's a lot of pieces that we want to start trying to gather early on in the game, and this will help us just draw into so many of them. If we are going second, this is the best thing that you can slam down immediately. If we are going first, you ideally don't want to be putting him down when you're going on turn 3, but sometimes it is necessary, and it can even benefit us by getting those extra cards. Up next, we've got one of the brand new additions to the format. This was also introduced in this set, and it comes with Vivi. It is made for Vivi. We're talking about none other than Vivi herself. Vivi is a 5-cost character that has 4k power, it has blocker, and on play, you may play up to 1 Alabasta or Straw Hat Crew type character with a cost of 5 or less from your hand. Then you cannot play character cards on your field during this turn. So this is quite important because, as you're going to see in the next couple of cards that we're going to reveal, there's a couple of really good targets that we can bring out with this. If you really wanted to, you can use the Vivi to play out the Sanji, and then rest your leader, swing for 6k, and you're looking pretty good. You can even use it to put down the Searcher and immediately get a search off. There's a couple of cool plays that you can do, but some of the better plays that we're going to be kind of aiming for, and the combo specifically that we're going to try to search for in our early game, is going to be this next one right here, which is going to be our 3 copies of EB03 Nami. I was debating initially about putting this at 4 copies, and this might be something that I might test out a little bit more in the future, but so far this has actually been working pretty well for me, having it at 3. This is a 5-cost 7k power. She's absolutely massive, with an on play that says you may give your active leader minus 5k power during this turn, draw 1 card. Then you can activate main once per turn. If your leader's Alabasta type, give up to one of your opponent's characters minus 1k power during this turn. This is incredibly good to synergize with a couple of more of our higher end cards that you're going to start to see, because we can use this if we're on field, use it, get minus 1k to anything, immediately swing for 7, and you can start removing stuff on the opponent's field. You can get rid of those pesky blockers, or you can force a really big blocker like, let's say, Newgate, to actually be within range of getting KO'd by some of our cards, some of our smaller cards in comparison. It's a really, really effective card. It's an incredibly strong card. This is one of the few cornerstones of this deck, and you can actually play her out from the Vivi's effect. You can pay 5, play out Vivi, you get a blocker, and you get the 5k, you get the 7k swing, while also drawing a card. This combo right here is just incredibly strong, and if this isn't the combo that you're able to pull off, the next one is definitely one that you should hopefully be able to pull off fairly easily, because I'm talking about our 4 copies of Blocker Nami. Blocker Nami is a 5 cost 6k power, 1k counter. That's just a blocker. But on play, you may draw 3 cards and put 2 cards to the top or bottom of your deck in any order. Now, I've seen a lot of people pairing this deck with the blue 9 cost Sanji, because technically you would know what's at the top of your deck because of your Nami filtering. I personally don't really like that kind of a play because while yes, you can technically do that filtering, that requires you playing down a 5 cost Nami the turn before you play out the Sanji, and that just feels a little bit too inconsistent, while also being just a little bit slow because you can only give one of the 2 cards rush when you play out that Sanji. Well, yes, you maybe can play out a blocker with the Sanji and, you know, play out another Nami or something. It is possible, but you can also realistically low roll or not even have a way to know what's at the top of your deck while sitting on a bricky Sanji. So I'm not running Sanji in this list, and you'll see what else I'm running instead. But 4 copies of Nami is an absolute must-have. Having an extra blocker in the deck is always going to be nice. It helps you keep that pressure going, while having effectively 2 blockers. You can actually use the Nami to kind of block some of the smaller blocks, like anything coming at you for 5, and you can use the Vivi to block anything bigger, use your leader effect, discard a card, and keep her alive, which is incredibly strong. So you can actually play this Nami off of this Vivi and just have 2 blockers while drawing 3 cards and putting 2 of your bricks back so you can have some counter for the next turn. It's incredibly strong, it's a great combo, and those are the 2 combos that you're kind of filtering for your mid game. But when it comes to your late game, what exactly are we trying to do? What is the aim of the deck? Well, first things first, with our Nami out on the field, being able to reduce power of different cards on the field, that kind of helps us play a little bit more into our Ben Beckman. Ben Beckman is a 7 cost 7k, 1k counter that says on play you can trash one of your opponent's characters with a power of 6,000 or less. And you need to really understand just how powerful this is in this current format. This character specifically says it trashes, not KOs, not returns, trashes. Trashing is a very, very strong effect because you're getting around these on KO effects. The yellow Nami will not trigger, Kikunojo will not trigger, Kuma will not trigger. All of these cards that say when on KO, you just say, nope, farewell. And it's out of the game, not even an issue. Now, it also gets around your opponent's Vivi in the mirror match because your Vivi specifically stops KO effects. It cannot stop you from trashing a card. Ben Beckman is a star in this deck, and with the multitude of cards that we have to kind of help reduce that power, this really helps out a lot, and this combo right here really helps you take care of a good portion and a good chunk of different kinds of cards in the format that normally would be a little bit out of range, but now you can effectively get rid of them, all for the low cost of 7 Dong. So Beckman is an outstanding star MVP of this deck that you will definitely be wanting to draw into and search early. But now, we get into the real meat and potatoes of the deck. What are we trying to accomplish when we get to the late game? We want to swing down the biggest, beefiest dudes that we can find. You want to find some of the gnarliest, highest costing attackers that you can get, that you can immediately give rush and just fling at your opponent's face. And so how are we going to accomplish that? Well, there is one really good combo that I think needs to be, that I think is really, really incredibly powerful, and I do want to talk about it because it is something that I've truly been enjoying in this deck. It starts off with our 7 cost Vivi. So I have this at 2 copies right now. I'm thinking about potentially upping it to 3. But Vivi's effect is a 7 cost 4k power, 1k counter. It says on play, you can play up to 1 Alabasta type character with a cost of 8 or less other than Vivi from your hand. Then, your opponent places 1 card from their hand to the bottom of their deck. The hand filtering by itself is already quite good, but for a 7 cost that wouldn't be enough. So, it being able to play out an 8 cost Alabasta type character is also incredibly strong. So there's 2 different cards you can play out with the Vivi. You can either play out the Nami, who is of course an Alabasta character, but ideally, you want to be searching for the next card in this deck profile, which is our Chaka and Pell. I actually am thinking about, I actually want to change this up to 3 copies, but unfortunately I haven't been able to find a 3rd copy of Chalk and Pel, so I've been running 2. But Chalk and Pel is so good in this deck, and when you play it off the Vivi, when you're going first, and you have 7 Dawn, you slam down this 8 cost Chalk and Pel. The value. This is what I was talking about when I mentioned explosive pressure at the beginning of the video. Chalk and Pel is an 8 cost 9k power with no counter that has double attack. On play, you may give your active leader minus 5k power during this turn and draw 2 cards. I don't think many of you really are processing just how powerful this combo is when you pull this off. For 7 Dawn, you play out your Vivi, your opponent and then you play out Chalk and Pel. Your opponent bottom decks a card from their hand. Then Chalk and Pel gives your leader minus 5k. You draw 2 cards. So these 2 that you just played out, you got 2 new replacements for them. Then you rest your leader, you give something else on their field minus 2k, and you give Chalk and Pel Rush. If they have no blockers, you're swinging 9k at their face, double attack, right after you just force them to bottom deck a card from their hand. This is an insanely strong combo, and this is the reason why I actually want to change my ratios a little bit to maybe go 3 and 3 here. And I'm gonna be talking about the next card in our list, which is most likely gonna be my first replacement, because I haven't really been finding as much use for it as I was really hoping, but it was still working quite well for me, which is our 8 cost Silver's Rayleigh. Silver's Rayleigh is an 8k power on play. You may give up to 2 of your opponent's characters. One of them you give minus 3k, the other minus 2, and it's until the end of your opponent's next turn. Then you can KO one of your opponent's characters with 3k power. Because of all the different kinds of power manipulation that we're doing between our leader giving minus 2k, Nami giving minus 1k, it's quite possible for you to actually be able to KO something that has effectively 7k power with just 1 Silver's Rayleigh while giving something else minus 2k power until the end of the next turn. Rayleigh is a really good card, and I do quite like it, and I think it does have a good fit in this deck. However, in this current list that I have, I just don't feel like it's currently living up to its weight, which is why I'm thinking about replacing it with 1 Vivi and 1 Chalk and Pel, because as I mentioned, that combo is just way too strong to not try to capitalize a little bit more on. But if you do like Silver's Rayleigh, it does have a good fit in this current list that I have right now. It's actually been working really, really well for me. There has just been a couple of matchups where I've been sitting here thinking to myself, man, I really don't want this Rayleigh, but in the matchups where it works incredibly well. Like this, shuts down Jinbei like nobody's business. It's insane. I actually went up against someone earlier today playing Jinbei, and I felt a little bit bad, but that's just the power of Rayleigh. So this is a very good card, but as I mentioned, I think it's definitely something, if you are looking to change up the deck list at all, I think this might be the first place that you want to take a look at to maybe replace. Up next, we've got some of our top end now. We're looking at our 10 cost Shanks. Shanks is a 10 cost 12k power that says on play, you may KO one of your opponent's characters with 10k power or less. This is just so good for removing almost any threat from the board. One of the matchups that I had was a Foxy matchup. That was actually a really bad matchup for us because they freeze your leader, but this helped me get rid of one of the 7 cost, 8 cost Foxes that they had on the field and put it into a very close game for us. I ended up losing the match, unfortunately, because he did have the restand event and I was kind of running low on cards. But when we did kind of look at our hands afterwards, if he didn't have that restand event and he drew it, and he was able to, luckily enough for him, draw it from his blocker Law, if he didn't have that restand event, I was actually going to be swinging it for game with a Chalk and Pel, and it was going to be lights out for him. But it was a very close matchup, and honestly, it was very GG's to my opponent, who played really, really well as well. But this Shanks really helped me out a lot, because this effectively helped me get rid of that minus 1k that the Foxy was going to be giving me, which helped me push for a lot more aggression and push just ever so closely to getting that win. So Shanks is a very good card. If you want to increase him up to 3, I think that's also still valid, but I've been kind of liking it at 2. I think this is still good. It's not too bricky, but it's also consistent enough where I think I've been seeing it when I need it. And then for my own personal favorite card of the deck, I've been seeing some people dropping it, some people are running it. It's kind of a bit of a toss-up at a 50-50 if you want to play it or not. I fucking love this card. This is Kaido. 10 cost, 12k power. On play, if your draw 4 cards if your opponent has 3 or less life. With Vivi, by the time we get to 10 Dawn, your opponent's gonna have 3 or less life. This card is just so good. You slam him down on your 10 Dawn turn, you give him Rush, you're drawing 4 cards. The value that he gives you is insane, and he's just swinging 12k immediately. If you're playing against Ace, which I did in one of our matches, you can give the new gate blocker minus 2k while you're giving this Rush. You swing for that. If they decide to block with it, they still have to commit counter to keep that new gate alive, and it's gonna at least be 3k, so it's potentially an event from hand, or it's gotta be a 2k and a 1k. So either way, you're getting rid of at least 2 cards from their hand, or you're just getting rid of the blocker new gate, you're pushing even closer for game. This card is so good. I've been looking for a good deck for Kaido for so long, and I'm so happy that Vivi came out that I now finally have a good deck that this can call its home. So I have this currently at 2 copies. It's very good just for the sake of drawing a ton of cards, swinging very hard, and swinging extremely heavily at life. This is the best top end card that I can have, and with all the card draw that we have in the deck, we get to this fairly consistently. So now I kind of want to talk about a couple of our 2K options. A lot of our 2Ks are kind of, you're going to see pretty consistent across the board with most of the Vivi lists, and I think it's for good reason. A lot of these are just very good into the format right now, and some of these are also just good specifically for Vivi. So the first one I want to talk about here is Ace Sabo Luffy, or ASL for short. It's a 1-cost 2k counter that has an activate main. You can give one of your active Dawn to your leader or a character and trash this card, and you give one of your opponent's characters minus 3k power during this turn. I really like this a lot because it kind of helped synergize a lot with some of our minus reductions. So synergizes well for getting anything that's 9k power within range of being able to just get Ben Beckman. Helps us a lot for effectively giving a new gate like -6, -7k in one singular turn. Like the value that this card can give you is quite insane, all for the sake of 1 Dawn. So if you don't have your search for Vivi, you can just play this out on your first turn. Let him sit here and just cook while you're going through the motions, going through the game. Your opponent's gonna forget about him, and then all of a sudden you're like, all right, I'll give you -3k, give an active Dawn to my leader, and then or to one of my characters, just swing really fucking hard. The value that the ASL gives you is quite good, and I've been definitely liking it in the list. So I have this as a 4 of. Next up, I have, this is one specifically that you're only going to be seeing for Vivi because honestly it's kind of meant a little bit for her, but this also helps secure your Chaka and Pell combo. We've got 4 copies of Terracotta. Terracotta is a 2-cost 2k counter that says activate main. You may rest this character and trash 1 card from your hand. Up to one of your Alabasta type characters gets unblockable during this turn. So if you are kind of trying to look for closing out the game, you have a couple of characters on board, maybe you're Nami, a blocker Vivi, and you have Chaka and Pell and this in your hand. For 2 Dawn, you can play this out. You can play your Chaka and Pell. You can rest this, trash a card from hand, give your Chaka and Pell Rush, and unblockable through Vivi's effect and this effect, and you're going to swing double attack, unblockable, 9k. It's the value that you're getting from that is insane. And then immediately after, you can follow it up with whatever else you need to go for a game, which maybe be your Nami, or maybe even a Kaido or Shanks that you've already had on board, or your Ben Beckman. You've got plenty of high attacking characters on your side of the field that your opponent isn't going to be able to remove unless they effectively have a way to Red Rocket or Gravity Blade it. But in most cases, your character's just going to sit rent-free on your board, staring down your opponent while they think to themselves, how am I going to get out of this situation? So Terracotta is really good for helping you close out the game, get yourself closer to getting yourself that sweet, sweet, sweet winner card. So I like having this as a nice, good 4 of. And then for the last 2Ks for the deck, we've got 4 copies of Tony Chopper. This was a pretty self-explanatory one. He's a 4-cost, 4k power, 2k counter that has blocker, and on your opponent's turn, this character gets 2k power. It's also, conveniently enough, a straw hat. This is searchable off of our Vivi. It's just very good because if you are getting to the late game and you're like, damn it, I really need a blocker out right now, but I also want to continue swinging a little bit harder with some of my other stuff, You can play down the chopper for 4k, and on your opponent's turn, it's going to be a 6k blocker, which can kind of stop quite a lot of different kinds of aggression. So the turn chopper is a bit of an automatic include, but that does mean that I am playing 12 2ks in the deck. I have felt that having this high amount of 2ks in the deck does feel rewarding, because with the amount of aggression that we're putting onto our opponents, we're giving them plenty of cards by taking their life. But at the same time, this is helping us a lot for kind of keeping the tempo in our favor, so that when we are drawing tons of cards, we have more opportunities to draw 2ks, since we do also have a decent amount of bricks in the deck. So this kind of helps us mitigate that a little bit. And lastly but not least, we'll talk about some of the events that we have. So I've got 2 copies of Phoenix Pyreapple. This is a pretty good event. It's a 1 cost, and for 1 more Dawn, you can place one of your opponent's characters with power 3k or less to the bottom of the deck. Between some of the power reductions that we have, between Vivi, even Nami, or some of the other cards, or even the ASL, we can effectively, for 2 Dawn, bottom deck quite a lot of cards in the format. You can bottom deck the Nami. Basically, think of any card that just has the most annoying on KO effect, bottom deck it. Not my problem anymore. I actually kind of want to run this maybe at 3, or potentially just running this as a full playset of 4. But that is something that I want to kind of do a little bit more testing about, but this is a very strong card, and I have been quite liking this a lot. And I think it works really well with our list. And lastly, I have 2 copies of But If We Ever See Each Other Again, Will You Call Me Your Shipmate? As you can see, that's clearly not the same one, but I unfortunately don't have another copy of it right now, so I was just kind of using this as a bit of a filler. This is essentially a 1 cost 4k counter with a trigger that says give one of your opponent's characters minus 2k power during this turn. I do like this card a lot. It's nice to have that 4k counter. It's essentially kind of like Radical Beam. And having 4k counter is incredibly powerful given how much aggression we're starting to see now, and in some of the power creep that's coming into the format. The 4k counter helps out a lot, but I'm kind of debating about whether or not I want to keep this, or if I want to run more of the Phoenix Power Apples, because as I mentioned, this has a lot more synergy with our deck, and being only 3k counter versus 4k counter, it doesn't always really matter as much, but it can obviously have its moments where it's like, I wish I had that 4k. But throughout the testing that I've been doing with this deck, I haven't really been seeing a situation where I was like, damn, if only I had a 4k counter in hand when I had a Phoenix Pyre Apple. I've usually had a good amount of times where this was effectively getting rid of the threat that would have required a 4k counter from hand. So this is pretty much, so that's pretty much it. So that is all that I have here. That's the whole deck. That's the whole deck profile. As I mentioned, Vivi is a very aggressive leader. It's very powerful, and it really requires a lot of. It doesn't require the most amount of skill. It does have a very low skill floor, but the skill ceiling for this deck is tremendous. The amount of different variations of this deck that you're going to be seeing is also quite large. Everybody has their own little spin on how they want to do Vivi, and I think you'll see that every deck list is different. Hopefully you enjoyed my own deck list, and I'll be sure to put a picture of it on the screen.
Hey, it's me from the future. Dipshit here forgot he removed the Rayleigh from the list before sitting down to record the video. So this list is not a typo. It's actually the legal one that you can play. Okay, bye! And just to kind of give a quick little guide on how to play this deck, effectively you do want to go first. Going first, you want to play out your Vivi. You want to search for whatever you need for the rest of the game. You can look for stuff that you need for the mid game or the end game, whatever you need to just kind of fill the holes of the deck. Going second, in your next turn, you want to play out your 3-cost Sanji. You want to slam it down, swing for 6k, and if they decide to trade into it by KOing it, just let it go. You can't protect it with your leader effect, so you might as well just let it go, draw an extra card. Hopefully that gets you closer to getting your pieces rolling. After that, you effectively want to play out your 5k combo. If you have both of these in hand, this is the most ideal thing that you can do, but you can also play out any of your other 5-cost cards that you have in hand, whether it be these or even the blocker Vivi, or the blocker Nami. So you'll play out the Vivi, play out the Nami, you'll give the Nami rush, swing for 7k while drawing a card, giving something minus power, and you can go from there.
After that, you kind of want to start figuring out what exactly you want to do for the end game. So if you have your combo for being able to pull off the Vivi and Chaka and Pell, heavily recommend you go for this. Immediately swing for the 2K. Let's say if they have a blocker on board, this might not be the best option for you. So maybe instead you'll want to play out your Ben Beckman, trash another threat, kind of get yourself ready for the late game. And as you get towards that late game, you can play out your Silver's Rayleigh to kind of get rid of a couple more threats while also powering down another threat of theirs for the next turn. After that, when you get to the very late game, you want to play your Shanks and your Kaidos to effectively swing for 12k immediately, while also either KOing something or drawing you so much cardboard and a ton of counter that your opponent will never be able to break your wall. For going second, it's effectively going to be the exact same thing. Nothing really changes too much. You just have a slightly more forgiving curve if you don't see exactly what you need on curve. So that's pretty much it for the deck profile. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. As I mentioned before, since I am starting up this channel, every little bit of engagement truly does help out a lot. So once again, if you are looking for a powerful leader who can win games just off of pure aggression, power, and control, this is the deck for you. Remember, every draw counts, so aim to be the king of top decks. Signing out.